come back into, we're back in session at 11. Our last item on the agenda before our executive session deals with the ordinance consideration under legal updates, the Second Amendment ordinance discussion that we were presented with about a month ago, I believe, here. And at that time, the board said that it would take what was presented under consideration. A big part of the consideration is what our folks in the law enforcement and legal world have to say about this. And so we not only have our county counsel in Bailey here, but we have Sheriff Mike Taylor and we have our district attorney Sharon Forrester, who have been gracious enough to offer up in our meeting today their views of this proposal. So with that, I don't know which is the best way to start.
Maybe I could just sort of gently talk about it, and then the DA and the sheriff can talk about their particular areas. The first thing to say is anything that deals with constitutional right, any ordinance or law that relates to that, has to be very carefully drafted. And that typically means that you have to have an attorney involved in the drafting process. In looking over the ordinance, regardless of the merits of wanting to increase or assure protection of the Second Amendment, there are problems with the ordinance. The largest one is that it violates the state constitution with regard to separation of powers between the executive and the judiciary. The second problem is that it violates the state law, which limits regulation of firearms to the state legislature. And so it wouldn't have any effect if the county were to adopt it as it's currently written. And as a result, it would only cause some confusion locally. So my opinion is that any such measure requesting an ordinance addressing constitutional amendment really needs to be drafted quite carefully and with the input of some legal counsel in the course of its drafting.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. And I think, and I meant to mention to begin with, maybe you can speak to it just a little. We did a resolution 4 or 5 years ago in total support of the Second Amendment and the rights of our citizens. That is on record, that is current. I think it sends as good a message as we possibly can send within the legal confines of, as Mr. Bailey said, and what we can do as a board. We totally support every citizen's rights, and we did so in formalizing that through the resolution.
Yes, and the only thing I would add to that is when you're in these areas of addressing constitutional rights, you have to be careful, you have to do it the right way. And whether it's done by resolution or it's done by an ordinance, it has to be done very carefully. We've done it by resolution. It addresses all the concerns that are in the ordinance. And the way the ordinance is currently drafted, it's simply deficient.
So now I will ask the sheriff or our district attorney, whoever would like to give their thoughts on this, if they would, please.
Well, I'll be happy to address it. I guess I have taken an oath to uphold the law as in my position, and I am bound to that. I've read the proposal, and clearly it does violate the law. And so I can't do anything with it. We clearly support the Second Amendment. I am a very strong supporter of the Second Amendment in my office. But we are bound by the law and what the legislature has passed as laws, and we will continue to enforce those. So that is the position of the district attorney's office. We are bound to support and enforce the law, and that's what we're going to continue to do. And anything that violates the law or tramples on the Constitution of the state of Oregon or the United States of America, we cannot endorse or support.
Thank you very much, Sharon. I appreciate that. And before the sheriff speaks, I just thought, as you were talking, just for clear understanding of why we're doing what we're doing today. I think this board understands the lane we drive in our authorities. And it was very important to bring in the people that are professionals in that field and that this ordinance would most impact, to give a clear overview of how they feel, because this board needs to stay in its lane and act upon things in a professional manner that are respective of those that this particular ordinance would most impact. So, Sheriff Taylor.
You know, there's not much more I can say other than what Mr. Bailey and DA Forrester said. I agree with both of them. I will add that the Second Amendment, when we start talking about that, it's very dear to people's hearts. It's supported by, I would say, the majority of people in the U.S. and probably all of Lake County residents. This ordinance, or this proposal as written, it merely quotes some of the Bill of Rights and the amendments of the Constitution. Number 2, on the first page where it says preserves the right of the people of Lake County to freely manufacture, sell. That is the sticky one, where I think it violates the Constitution of the state of Oregon and state law. The Second Amendment is a birth-born right of every American to keep and bear arms. I don't think that we will argue with that, but when we start changing the Bill of Rights and the Second Amendment to benefit our position, whether it's on the left or on the right, will we run into a sticky problem. I don't think any single organization, from the President of the United States to the Governor of the state of Oregon to a group, has a right to change the Second Amendment. And that is one thing that I will dig in on when people start altering the Second Amendment and our rights to keep and bear arms. When that starts changing, then that's when we'll dig in, and maybe we will have to take a stand on it. But this is not one that I would say that I would support, because it's altering what the state government says that we have done. So, as far as this proposal, I do not support. But like I say, when it comes to altering our freedom to keep and bear arms, that's when we'll do it.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. And I think it almost goes without saying that this board, acting on behalf of the citizens, getting advice from both legal counsel, our district attorney, and our sheriff, among many others, we would never we would be in the trenches with all of those folks that I just mentioned if our rights started to become jeopardized. We will work as hard as we can to protect everybody's individual rights as citizens of not only Lake County, but the United States of America. And through that resolution, once again, we've stated that very clearly. So I do appreciate you both coming today. It's very helpful to have that view from the two of you as we deliberate towards what we will do next.
You heard me last time.
Yep.
We done the resolution.
Yep.
I very much support the Second Amendment. Thank you guys for coming down, spending the time in a public meeting. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
As far as a concluding thought from me, because we don't want to leave this like Florida did many years ago, dangling Chad. What are they doing next? As far as I'm concerned, as one commissioner, and I think Commissioner Winters just said the same thing, Commissioner Kessler's not here, but we're not going to be pursuing this any further this time.
You got that consensus by me.
Okay. Okay. Well, before we go into executive session, I think it's appropriate to close the two open hearings.
Yes.
which we will do at this time. Our first hearing under Public Hearing County Ordinance number 117, Ways of Necessity Jurisdiction. We will close it at this time, and we will have another hearing on that ordinance on March 1st in Christmas Valley. Our second public hearing, County Ordinance number 116, it's an amendment to the nuisance ordinance. We will close that at this time, and we will be opening that again for a second hearing on March 1st in Christmas Valley. And now we're going to go into our executive session. Those that can remain will be the board, our administrative assistant, and the press. The press will be gagged. Thank you all for attending today. Appreciate it.